I heard him before I saw him. Carl was back. I don't know why I thought of dog. It was almost 20 years ago. Maybe I suspected the reason for this sudden and unannounced homecoming was the same as it was back then, the same as it always was, that he needed his big brother's help. I was standing out in the yard and looked at my watch. 2:30. He'd sent a text message, that was all. Said they'd probably arrive by 2, but my little brother's always been an optimist, always promised more than he could deliver. I looked out over the landscape, the little bit of it that showed above the cloud cover below me. The slope on the other side of the valley looked like it was floating in a sea of grey. Already the vegetation up here on the heights had a touch of autumnal red. Above me the sky was heavenly blue and as clear as the gaze of a pure young girl. The air was good and cold. It nipped at my lungs if I breathed in too quickly. I felt as though I was completely alone, had the whole world to myself. Well, a world that was just Mount Ararat with a farm on it. Tourists sometimes drove up the twisting road from the village to enjoy the view, and sooner or later they would always end up in our yard here. They usually asked if I still ran the small holding. The reason these idiots referred to it as a small holding was probably that they thought a proper farm would have to be like one of those you get down on the lowlands, with vast fields, oversized barns, and enormous and splendid farmhouses. They had never seen what a storm in the mountains could do to a roof that was a bit too large, or tried to start a fire in a room that was a little too big, with a gale 30 degrees below blowing through the wall. They didn't know the difference between cultivated land and wilderness, that a mountain farm is grazing for animals and can be a wilderness kingdom many times the size of the flashy corn-yellow fields of a lowland farmer. For 15 years I had been living here alone, but now that was over. A V8 engine growled and snarled somewhere down below the cloud cover. Sounded so close it had to have passed the corner at Japan Bend, halfway up the climb. The driver put his foot down, took his foot off, rounded a hairpin bend, foot down again, closer and closer. You could tell he'd navigated those bends before. And now that I could hear the nuances in the sound of the engine, the deep sighs when he changed gear, that deep bass note that's unique to a Cadillac in low gear, I knew it was a DeVille. Same as the great black beast our dad had driven, of course. And there was the aggressive jut of the grill of a DeVille, rounding Goat Bend. Black, but more recent. I guessed an 85 model. The accompaniment the same, though. The car drove right up to me, and the window on the driver's side slid down. I hoped it didn't show, but my heart was pounding like a piston. How many letters, text messages and emails and phone calls had we exchanged in all these years? Not many. And yet, had even a single day passed when I didn't think about Carl? Probably not. But missing him was better than dealing with Carl trouble. The first thing I noticed was that he looked older. "Excuse me, my good man, but does this farm belong to the famous Upgard brothers?" And then he grinned, gave me that warm, wide, irresistible smile, and it was as though time was wiped from his face, as well as the calendar which told me it had been 15 years since last time. But there was also something quizzical about his face, as though he were testing the waters. I didn't want to laugh, not yet, but I couldn't help it.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.